Hello, everyone. We are more than happy to welcome you to our webinar today. Our discussion will be on the role of career and technical education towards empowerment. We actually have very prominent speakers for this webinar. Yeah, so to kickstart, we'll do an introduction of each and of all of them one by one before we can get to the topic of discussion. So we have two speakers. Our first speaker will be Albert MAAKE. He is a senior lecturer at the University of Lay Adventists in Kigali. So other than being a senior lecturer, he is also an external reviewee of the National Council of Science and Technology. So I'll hand over to him so that he can be able to give a much more detailed introduction of himself in about 2 minutes.
Yes, check my check. I hope you're getting me clear. VANIS, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Second edition for webinars in this platform for Nelisa. As she said, my name is Albert MAAKE. I am an economist. I teach in Rwanda, in the university called UNILAC. I'm a consultant. I consult with the government. I'm excited about entrepreneurship, especially in the areas of agribusiness, which I'm taking part there. And also besides that, I try to find value and see how societies and communities are able to grow. There's cohesion between the communities, and what we do is to see that they are able to come together, put ideas together, and then move on well. Other than that, I think we're going to have a good time here. I'm looking forward to it, and all the best. Thanks.
Thank you so much for such a good introduction. Yeah, so I also like to welcome our second speaker. He goes by the name Harry Peterson. So he is an entrepreneurship consultant. He works with young businesses to help them build up and develop successful businesses. So for more, I'll also hand over the mic to him so that he can be able to fully introduce himself and tell us what he is into. Welcome, Peterson.
Thank you very much, VANIS. It's awesome to be here, and I'm so excited to be here and with what Nelisa is doing. Just echo the words of Albert. It's cool. It's great to be a part of something that's about to explode and about to emerge. I've spent some time just with startup business myself. Been inside corporate for a while, and then been helping businesses grow at different levels, from small businesses, startup businesses, having fun with the startup guys, and getting them to a next level. And then also looking at bigger companies that are looking to grow to a different size and sell. Really love being in the part of connecting people and connecting opportunities. And I think this is such an awesome platform to do that. I think there's so much happening in Africa, and there's so much potential. And now we need the youth to come together and play such a huge part in it. So thankful to Nelisa for what they're doing. And I think this is going to be a great journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, so and then the last and not the least of our speakers this afternoon is Miss WANDITI MAINA. She's an entrepreneurship in Kenya. She's going to go ahead and introduce further before she can get a chance to do a presentation. So she'll be our first speaker, but before that, I would really love her to introduce herself. Welcome.
Thank you very much, VANIS. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm like all the other speakers here, I'm excited to be here. I'm really happy to introduce Nelisa Awakening Africa. But in the meantime, let me introduce myself. I'm an entrepreneur by profession currently. My core businesses are in real estate and also energy solutions. But the biggest thing and part of what I do is to empower communities. I believe in transforming lives, and I believe that the only way you can transform people's lives is if you give them sustainable development. So handouts are not a wonderful thing. They're a good startup, but it's not fantastic in the long run. It's better to give somebody the tools to fish than a fish itself. So if you empower the youth, this is our future. These are the people who will be carrying on for generations to come. If you give them good foundations now, it means that we can change Africa, we can empower Africa, we can make Africans believe in Africa. And that's truly an important thing for all of us. So thank you and welcome to Nelisa.
Thank you so much, Madam. We will like to start. I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. I'm VANIS ONCHWARI. I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. I'm a software engineer by profession, so I work with different technical companies to help them digitize or move into some of the high-tech related areas. So yeah, I'm very glad to be part of Nelisa. It's an opportunity not only for myself as a youth, but all the other youths out there who are looking forward to not only create jobs for themselves, but to empower other young individuals as well, so that they can make something out of their life. Yeah, so that I don't take a lot of time, I also like to welcome those that are listening on our social platform. Yeah, so as well, those who will not manage to be here with us, we'll have a recorded version of this webinar on our social platform. So please keep up to date, and then you can be able to log in, and you can be able to log into your accounts and just visit our social platform so that you can get up to speed with what is going on. We'd also like to hear from you. So as our speakers are on with the presentation, please note down any question that you have or concerns, and we will be able to respond to them in due course. So without wasting a lot of time, I'd like to welcome Ms. Wanditi to take us through an introduction of what Nelisa is and what is our core business. Welcome, Madam, again.
Thank you, VANIS. To all of you, I welcome you to Nelisa Awakening Africa. Nelisa Awakening Africa is a Pan-African social enterprise. When we say Pan-Africa, I think you can already see that we are in Rwanda, Guinea, Kenya, Eswatini, looking to expand across Africa. So in due time, we'll say to people, bonjour, habari gani, teteng, and a whole other lot of languages that will incorporate into Nelisa. So Nelisa is born out of the fact that we have an education system that is quite challenging, where we've missed out on the opportunity to prepare the youth for a career, for their future careers. And I'll share with you what we have as our model for Nelisa, and also our motto, because we're truly into empowering the youth. So we're a social enterprise, which is born out of the fact that, let me put on a share so I can share this presentation with you. So we're born out of the fact that we're empowering the youth. Nelisa identified a few years ago what the problem is, And what we've discovered as the problem is, despite the progress that governments have made in the education system, the number of schools with these higher learning institutions, technical and vocational training increases by the day. The number of graduates is growing, yet there's a skill mismatch between the graduates and the job market. So sometimes you spend 15 years going to school and you discover that 20 years later, you're not prepared to take on any kind of job, and therefore you have to go back to the drawing board. And that's where NELISA comes up. And one of the biggest things is to empower youth to either to have skills that they can use in the marketplace, or more importantly, to create their own jobs by starting their own enterprises. So we realized that there was a lack of professional orientation and career guidance in the education system as it stands today. There's a striking disconnect between practice and education. There's a huge gap between education and industry. And then we have what people perceive as irrelevance between the education they receive and the career pathways that they take. So NELISA decided that what we would like to do is to create some form of solution to this problem that we have identified for the youth, and to mitigate on the unemployment. And also, if you create job supply and there's enough people who are economically empowered, then what we can do is realize that truly we reduce crime, we make a better life for the youth and their family, not just them, because it will impact, if you impact one youth, you impact his immediate family, and you'll also impact his secondary family, which are his siblings, cousins, whoever else is in his or her group of family. So NELISA came up with a solution, and the solution we came up with is, we said that our biggest thing we wanted to do is to ensure that we gave the youth career and a technical education, so that once we can, to mitigate on the mismatch between the education and the career skills that are required. So we have professional orientation and career guidance. We've got skill matching, combination of hard skill and life skill. And we have school to work preparation and transition programs. In addition, we found that it's important not only to give skills, but it's also important to give economic empowerment. So we've created a startup incubation and a startup acceleration program. This usually is geared towards students who are really interested in creating their own businesses, creating employments for others, and improving their communities in general. We also discovered that in addition to giving people all the skill and helping them with all of that, there's a lack of funding, that a lot of people may have fantastic education, they have a good process going on, but there's a lack of fund in where they want to go next. So we've created a NELISA Startup Fund, which is equity venture financing, grant financing, loan guarantees, and venture debt. All of this to prepare for economic empowerment. And now what the other thing that the program also encompasses is wellness and mental health. For a person to be a well-rounded person, you need your career, but you also need physical wellness, and you need mental health. We have cases of youth people committing suicide and other problems in society, which we mitigate by giving wellness education, counseling and mental healing, and a rehab center to be created in the future. So for all these services, NELISA is targeting the target customers and the services that are offered. Let me talk about services first. So the services that are offered are hands-on training, transition to work programs, startup incubation, NELISA Startup Fund, startups acceleration, and the psychology and psychotherapy services. So for the hands-on training and transition to work programs, the target audience or the target customer in this case will be basically school dropouts, non-school leavers, uneducated and unskilled youth, unemployed graduates. When you offer that to them, you prepare them better for to be better skilled and better equipped to go into the work environment. Then we have service allocation process, which we look to match employer with our graduates. And there's geographic segmentation level need assessment, which is all encompassed in that skill development. On the startup funds, our target audience, the startup incubation, NELISA Startup Fund, and the Startup Acceleration Program, our target clients will be the youth, the existing youth entrepreneurs, scalable startups, and new enterprises. Some of them will go through our training program so that once they are graduates of our program, then they come into the startup entrepreneurship program that will help them propel them better in whatever startup that they look to do. On the counseling and psychotherapy program, our target market is youth in the 16 to 35 year range who are either in recovery or who just need counseling services because they feel they are pressured, they stress, all of that may be impacting a person's performance or their relationship with people around them. We look to enhance their physical, mental, and social well-being so that they're better prepared to perform in society. I think I've pretty much covered or given an overview of NELISA Startup Fund. I mean, NELISA Awakening Africa. We as the group of NELISA are excited to bring this to you. We've got youth development, there's youth boot camps that you can enroll into, there's career and technical training. So we welcome you to visit our website, look at the program that you would be interested in, reach out and get more information or enroll into any one of our programs. Welcome. I think that's it for me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so as well, in case you have any questions with regards to the services that NELISA is offering or to anything in general, especially if you want to know more about what kind of aspects we are including, we are working with, please do so by posing a question to our team and they'll be able to respond. And then with regards to any of the other questions, especially in the topic for today, also have them in mind. If any speaker hasn't addressed any of your concern, please feel free to ask a question as well on the same. Yeah, so thank you, Madam Wanditi, for the presentation. Yeah, without taking much more time, I'd also like to welcome our second speaker. He'll focus more on the role of career and technical education towards empowerment. He'll give a foundation before we can maybe now dig much further, trying to establish how we can better apply it to a more practical approach. Yeah, so I welcome Dr. Albert to take us through what essentially is the role of career and technical education in entrepreneurship. Okay, you're welcome, Doctor.
Thank you so much, VANIS, and kudos to Wanditi. Pleasant presentation there, very informative, juicy, and I think that will keep our target audience salivating, waiting, trying to answer is one question here. Is career and technical education relevant in 2021, 2022? Is it relevant in the 21st century? Why should we be able to give time and energy, resources to career technical education? So what we're going to look at is basically try to understand what is career and technical education, which actually we sometimes refer to as VOTech. But we're also going to see how is entrepreneurship linked to this concept of career technical education. And so we will consider the arguments behind career technical education. We will see how relevant is this? What role does it play? And then in a very light way, we also consider how career and technical education builds networks and pathways among the target subjects in how that can be put together so that entrepreneurship is considered as an area of interest, so that, as Wanditi said earlier, this should be able to help them get out of their impoverished contexts. And we will finish with where is career technical education heading to, and what can we do? How should we, what role can we play going forward? I'm excited, especially for Mr. Peterson, because of Mr. Peterson, he is going to offer us a more practical approach. And so we'll be able to see why this is very interesting. Why is it a subject that we should encourage the youth? We should encourage the women. We should encourage everybody in our communities to be able to take part in this. And the exciting part, folks, is that NELISA is the vehicle. NELISA Awakening Africa will be the vehicle to help us bring this to realization and change lives, change communities, so that we can have a better living, better standard of living. Okay. So just a minute. What did I do here? Okay, so career technical education, what does that? Is that it targets learners. And our learners here are all learners. These include young and they include adults. We target all ages. And what that does is it empowers them with academic skills. It empowers them with technical skills. They get to be knowledgeable. And the training that comes with this program will be able to spearhead or lead them into a successful future, a successful career, a successful life, whereby as they grow, they are able to achieve their ambitions, their goals, and become lifelong learners. So we're looking at academic skills, technical skills, knowledge and training working together in a symbiotic relationship that will help our students, who are actually our target, to be able to be successful in what they want to achieve. Remember, these young people they are very innovative. These young people, they are risk takers. They want to be able to change things. So career technical education is important. Second, we should also, and this is according to SBN, we should also appreciate that career technical education is actually also known as vocational technical training, and we call that as VOTE. It is teaching students, and the focus is basically on tech-based or career-oriented skills, such that we are in 21st century. Mobile penetration is high. In sub-Saharan Africa, it's climbing up. And therefore, we need to empower the youth. We need to empower our target audience such that they are actually tech-based. They are actually equipped with skills that will help them maneuver this globalized, tech revolutionized world of ours today. So academic skills, technical skills, knowledge and training, and you're also going to appreciate that it is tech-based and career-oriented. That will be able to make a difference in our life. Now, I also want to highlight this. These are cluster spaces. Where can we employ? How can you use career technical education? There are many areas that we can be able to take part in. There is arts, technology, and communication. We have education and training. Areas such as agriculture. I'm very passionate about it. Back in Rwanda, I'm into farming, agribusiness. Right now, by the way, I'm broadcasting from Nairobi, from Kenya. We have agriculture, food and natural resources. There is finance. There is health sciences. We also have IT, hospitality, and tourism. All these areas are relevant when it comes to career technical education. Transport, marketing, investment, architecture and construction, public administration. So you can understand or appreciate that our target audience will have different passions, will have different creativity. And these cluster areas are able to capture each one of them. So nobody should be able to be felt left out. And that's why I'm saying NELISA will be able to target many people from different backgrounds, different passions and creativity, people with different understanding based on their context, so that they are all part of the program. So to our viewers, and maybe some are asking, is this really relevant? I'm in hospitality, I'm in tourism. How can career technical education be relevant? No worry, you are taking part. You are part of it. Science, technology, engineering, even mathematics is a scope area whereby career can be developed because of the technical answers there. Moving on, we want to look at what are the arguments of career technical education. Why is this important? Why are we highlighting it? Why do we emphasize on career technical education, and especially Melissa? Why now? The first thing is CTE focuses on startup of new business ventures. And I don't need to highlight so much there. Ms. Wanditi did that for me. Thank you. It focuses on new business ventures. We have technologies coming up. We have innovative ideas in the horizon. So career technical education helps focus the startups so that we are able to have new businesses. Secondly, career technical education will be able to nurture the students or our learners through proper education, proper coaching, and training. The programs can be designed according to the context, according to the environment. We saw one of our audience asking, what's going to happen to us? We might not be understanding English. So career technical education can be customized to fit the needs of the learner, and it be able to give a proper education and coaching for the learner, so that as Ms. Wanditi, please forgive me for referring to you. We have, Nelisa has startup incubation, we have startup acceleration, the fund is there, there's the wellness, all these programs or subsets of Melissa will be able to properly educate and coach, nurture these learners such that they are able to come out confidently and be able to pursue their dreams. They have ambitions, they want to do something. And thirdly, career technical education is, or it plays a good role in enriching entrepreneurial activities. And these entrepreneurial activities are responsible, they are relevant to the community needs, they are relevant to the society needs around those startups, around those entrepreneurial activities. And so it is important to remember that these activities that are in the practical application, career technical education will drive them to answer problems of society. What is the problem today? Is it COVID? How can we maneuver around it? Is it finances? What can be done about it? Is it empowerment or quality labor? How can that be done? So these three areas give the argument as to why CTE is relevant. Moving on, we look at the role of CTE. First and foremost, what it does is, at the application end, to fulfill it later, the learner achieves personal and financial success. Remember, the learner wants to become self-employed, or become an entrepreneur, or become relevant in the workforce. At the end of the day, they achieve personal, financial, and personal success and financial success. These two things are important, especially in the self-actualization of a person. The law of Maslow says that somebody has to come out of himself. And CTE, especially in the context of sub-Saharan Africa, will be able to put funds or purchasing power in the pockets of the learners and whoever are their dependents. Secondly, again, you see there, enriching entrepreneurial activities. This is important because it helps further on that agenda. I want to highlight on the third one, the driver for professional and technical SME sector in in Africa for our context. Many businesses in Africa are SME based. They are small business groups. They are technical business groups. And this forms up to about 80% of the businesses in Africa. 44 million, if I be quoting Salesforce. And so, CTE, therefore, is important because it drives this sector. And this will house the manufacturing industry. You have agriculture industry, you have the technical industry, or Juakali, if I may say so, and various other sectors. So CTE drives, it empowers these areas, and therefore it is relevant today, 2022, for us to focus on what is CTE. Now, we are going to look at, and this is another subset of CTE in terms of the role. Building pathways and networks. Now, remember, career and technical education is not only a university concept. This can be, it can involve the secondary and even primary schools, whereby students are able to be nurtured, they are guided as they progress in their education careers. So CTE, therefore, will play a role in building these pathways. Way back from an early age, a learner will discover their passions, will discover their strength, and be able to direct them properly, so that by the end of first degree, they are well equipped academically, technically, they are knowledgeable, they've been trained, and so they are able to be relevant in the workforce. What does building pathways do? Number one, it does not replace the traditional academic platform. Rather, it complements it. It adds on to what is already there. So learners are equipped. They gather in skills, technical, academic knowledge, so that they are able to work together. Now, you consider that as two hands. There is the traditional school education system, and on the other side, the other hand, you have the career and technical education. That helps empower and have a better fit for the job market. Secondly, it will align the curriculums with the industry. That's a gap that our first presenter talked about. It makes sure that the questions or the problems in the industry are addressed in the classroom environment, such that when the student or the learner gets out, he or she is able to address those problems. How is this so? The student is given hands-on experience. Hands-on experience, and it is based on the industry challenges. So you have pathways that are tight. They are able to get the student prepared, ready, and he's aware, she's aware what's going to be able to, what's going to handle. And lastly, CTE contextualizes the learning to real-world problems, the learning into real-world setting. We have maybe challenges in terms of finances, in terms of environment, climate change, and all. We have things to do with political, economic, political challenges. All these are handled. CTE programs will, based on their context and environment, be able to make sure that things are done well. So those are the building pathways. I'm about to finish. And then let me give you a little bit of stats here. This slide looks at statistics that young entrepreneurs, our audience, that need to know. Number one, in Sub-Saharan Africa, we have 44 million SMEs. That tells you it is about 80% of job space there. So it is relevant today. It is relevant. Someone will be asking, how is this relevant? Is NELISA really wasting their time? No. Africa, the job market there, 80% of it is under or driven by entrepreneurs. And so it is important. Look at US, 32.5 million businesses. So we are on the right path. Second, research has showed that the newer generations, the millennials and Gen Zs, these new folks, young people, and if you look at the demographies or population numbers, the ages between 25, 18 or to 35 are millennials and Gen Zs. These kind of guys have or want to have a side business. They want to make extra cash so that they may be able to pay their bills. And this sits for 188%. That tells you that NELISA is working in the right path to be able to empower the youth. The vision here is relevant, such that the youth are taken care of. They are accepted and pulled into this program so that they are able to make progress. Then we have, I also wanted to highlight why new businesses fail. And the reasons here, actually, part of them, NELISA is addressing. This presentation by Ms. Wanditi touches on this. And you can see how CTE, therefore, is relevant. There is lack of finance, which, again, NELISA is largely going to address. There is a problem of market demand. Basically, that is a demand side aspect, and therefore you have issues to do with purchasing power. Largely, if we have these programs well done and the people are assimilated, they accept them, this will be able to make the market or purchasing power go up. Thirdly, poor team spirit. In these startups or small businesses and entrepreneurial activities, many of them do not find the right mix of people. And this becomes a problem when it comes to executing the objectives of the firm. So again, I'm happy to say that there is a bootcamp that in the NELISA program that will be able to help nurture or train the learners such that they know that these are the things you're looking for in the team. These are the things you're looking for in a partner, such that the objectives of that entrepreneurial activity will be able to work out. Competition, customer-centric reasons, and resources are part of other problems that help or contribute to new businesses failing. And so, again, I want to underline that NELISA, taking the approach it has taken, will be able to handle these problems, tackle them at the grassroots with those startups, with those entities, so that they are able to tackle those problems as they move on. So Where is CTE going? How can Nelisa play a role in this? And all other stakeholders, councillors, public administrators, governments, teachers, lecturers, private investors. We have, entrepreneurs and all. So there is a need for increased interest and funding. That is important. We have to throw more light into these areas such that there is awareness. Secondly, we looked at pathways. So CTE going forward should be able to help out in building seamless pathways, all the way from primary going to university or tertiary education. And lastly, team spirit. These entrepreneurial activities, the startups that Nelisa is looking forward to start, cannot function well without the proper team spirit. Team spirit should be underlined. It is the powerhouse of these entrepreneurial activities. And so the life of these businesses will depend on the team spirit of the people. Otherwise, I think I have come to the end of a short presentation, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that bit of foundation. Yeah, so that also brings me one aspect. Yeah, we have tried to establish that career and technical education is actually a crucial arm in entrepreneurship. So as we welcome Peterson, I'd like you also to establish on what kind of skill sets does the career and technical education offer that ensures that we have successful entrepreneurship.
I want to again, saying this probably for the third time, but just say thanks to Dr. Albert and Wandita for what they have shared. I'm super excited about what's happening. My role has been in startup businesses and entrepreneurs. I've been an entrepreneur myself and gone through some of the challenges. And I think that there is such a need and a readiness in Africa and the youth to be a part of building the economy and actually finding meaningful places to bring their creation and innovation. So I just want to take a quick look about I've been in corporate a bit, and I started a couple of companies. One of them, Zircon Global, consults to other companies. But my fun space is always in community startups where we get involved in the community and something that brings a benefit. I have a company called Sunshack, which provides renewable energy solutions to informal communities. We're doing some fun stuff there with teams that go bring solar energy. We are also looking to take that and to add some tech onto it. So I think Dr. Albert shared a little bit about technology and how do we take technology, take a small business, add some technology and link it to a global world, and through connectivity and other things. So that has been something that I've been passionate about, is how do you bring a small business, how do we bring value, and how do we add some tech to it to make it connect to a global world. I've done some quite a bit of business liaison and deal negotiation and putting business together and actually just putting people together. And I think that's one thing we mustn't forget about entrepreneurship. It's about people, and people need people. So when we're connecting people, it's all about the people. And as we grow our businesses, we must never forget that it's people that make the heartbeat there. So as we begin to grow in our education, as we start to roll out our businesses and put processes in place, don't leave yourself out, and don't forget that there's people behind that thing, because it's important going forward to hold the heartbeat of your values. So I've done some work for various different organizations. Some guys who are doing housing developments and wanted to add solar into the development, and how do you add it as a value-added service, put solar on and get a repayment on a monthly basis? How do we put that model together? Done some work in Waymakers, setting up a base. I've done that fish and chips spaza shop, and I just want to, if I go back to that picture just quickly, there's my partner and I want to talk about this experience a little bit because it didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. We set out to put a fish and chip spaza shop inside one of the areas that were in Cape Town. And I set out and my expectation wasn't met. And we were hoping to set up this business, and it needed some core skills. You know, you needed to be able to fry the fish, which wasn't too difficult. And then there were some sales, you know, you needed to converse with the client, and then you need some admin. I needed to, you know, record the sales, record what was coming on a spreadsheet or Google Sheets or whatever. And we needed to capture, you know, how much money we'd made in the day. There was some financial aspect to it. And so what we did was we went out to straight into a learning place without any education. And so we didn't have the education block, we just had the experience block. And it became quite painful over time because we started to stumble around the things that we didn't know. And that's why I think the education part is always fundamental. Even in CTE, we can't replace that. We need it, but we need it to be angled or channeled to where we're really going to bring value. So in this particular thing over here, we didn't have that. And so I was getting called at the last minute when the fish was finished if we could order more fish. And then there wasn't time to get there. And so we missed a day of not selling. We also started to find that me and my partner, we had a fryer there, someone who fried the fish, and that the money was seemingly not enough money in the till, just seemed to be disappearing. And at the end, we watched and tried to figure it out. And we saw that the neighbor was coming and getting fish and chips for free from our fryer. And the fryer was taking 20 Rand out the till, putting it underneath fish and chips, giving it to the neighbor. And then after work would go collect the money every day. So these were all things that we were unable to track or understand. We just had a gut feel about it, and eventually it popped up. So those are some of the aspects that we need to hone ourselves when we have a good vision, when we have a good idea. We really got this great thing that it can really work. We need to add some skills to it, and we need to make sure that we're ready for the market we're going to. The other thing that we don't really get in university or in our educational career is that, and it's one of the components that CTE will start to talk about when it talks about mental wellness. It touches on areas of emotional EQ. For example, trust and honesty, perseverance, hard work. All these things are really critical for small startup businesses because you're going to fail a lot of times and it's going to be painful and you're going to make mistakes. And how do you handle that? And that response is very important for the startup person and for us as entrepreneurs to understand. So if you miss it, you could have many degrees. You could be really ready to go to the market. You go to the market, and if your character and your emotions have not developed, you still got some learning curves that are going to be tough for you to experience. So that was just a little operation that kicked off, and we had some learning in that. I've also done some work for various different companies around coffee, dealing with Google, with their connectivity on their laser links, and built a wireless ISP business, and I'll share a little bit about that as we go on. So yeah, some of the projects we actually created. Some last thing you talked about, sometimes with the failure is that there's no teamwork, and so it's good to bring in community, teamwork and spirit, so that you can identify to something. Those are all elements that you might not, or you might learn, for example, in your degree or in your certificate or in your learning at school. But really what you need to do is to understand how we're going to apply it. Like, here's a simple way, right? We had our T-shirts, and then on our T-shirts we said, sweat, blood, and tears, which means you're really going to have to work hard first. Develop your skills, right? So if you've got a skill, let's bring it, let's develop it. It's not going to be perfect on day one, but after a while, we'll get good at it. And the other thing is discover your passion. So while you're doing this, what's happening? What are you getting excited about? And then the fourth one is be prepared to serve someone. And that's something that we don't learn in business, is that actually there's a great place of service, because it's much better to give than to receive. And some of those things are not what we learn in business, but they are core to us as people, giving building, and bringing in team and helping a client and making sure their needs are met. So here's our fish and chips business. This is a one wireless company. We built internet services for houses and into communities. And here's a good example. A lot of these guys didn't have the training. They didn't go to university. They were just ready and hungry to work. And so we took some of them on, and we had some guys that were skilled, and they shadowed and trained, and they learned and they developed their skills practically on the ground, climbing ladders and putting up wireless dishes on roofs. But then what we found is that, okay, we need to actually add some education components, some courses to help that person to get to another level. And so we created some courses. And then what we did was we went back and we relearned and said, is this making sense? And are we growing? What we did in this business is that we reached into communities that were underserviced with internet. And instead of taking this team and taking them to every single area, we became the champions that trained local people inside those areas. So we had an online training course, a module on how to install an internet connection, and the person could go through online, learn it, and then write a test online, and we would score them. And then if they scored well, we would then send them business in that area. So that is quite a nice model of how do we take education, integrate into practical learning, and then continually, reiteratively learn and continue to learn. So we had fun doing that. There's another team. He has no understanding of solar. He came on board. He was hitting nails on the roof and was getting very frustrated because he couldn't quite do, the job that he wanted to do well. And so his character got developed, and that's a big part of it. And now he leads one of the projects where we're building a classroom. So it's important that leadership comes from that team place as well. So his skills are getting developed, but now we are learning about hemp building for structure. So there's the educational part. What really would have helped in all of these situations and some more projects here is if we had a CTE approach, if we had the combination already set up. So we have an idea, we have a vision, we have a job, a business concept that we think is going to work. Well, I need that help. Someone help me to guide my skill set to get there. And while I'm getting there, just take me to someone who's done it before, who's done a bigger operation, so I can learn. And then, when I grow my business and I'm getting on the way and I start off, I'm going to need some funding. But, I don't want to be killed with massive interest rates and repayments immediately. Help me. So this is the roadmap where we integrate business, and CTE does that. It starts at a place, and this is what Lisa is trying to build, is it starts at a place and it builds you to where you want to go, but all the time is integrating with business. And when you integrate with business, you're almost like readying the market to say, we're coming, we're going to bring a clever idea, and when we do, please support us. And that process is important. Yeah, we had some fun. This is building the school classroom. This is a hydroponics small home kit that went into the township, and we wanted to try put it at each one's home. There was big learning over here. I had a great idea, I thought, but when I put it on the ground, there were some things. First of all, this doesn't produce enough food and vegetables for a person to eat. It also requires a little pump to pump the worm juice through, and that pump quickly got stolen. And also, we wanted to build a little app where you could trade, but there wasn't enough volume for trade. And these things are quite delicate. You've got to look after these plants. And so if you leave them and neglect them, or they stand in the wind, they're going to die. So I had a lot of learning curve around that. There's some of the solar panels, and this is a connection with internet connectivity. We partnered with a hardware store, and we joined our clients together. So again, this is reaching out to business. The business was a hardware store. They got bigger capacity. They got big clients. They had loyalty systems. We just said, we're a small company who wants to provide internet. Can we do some work with you? And this is how we linked together to be bigger than what we were and to reach a bigger market. This is building a house site straight on the top of a very, very big mountain with no power. We had to bring everything up and walk it up with 2 hours walk with batteries and kits. And you'll see that a little bit later on. So here's the story that Africa is super exciting. There's so much happening all over the world at the moment, and the West and countries are feeling the knock of the pandemic. Economies are battling. We've got we've got a war on at the moment, and what war is doing is stopping business between countries. And so where I used to buy oil from and where I used to buy wheat from and fertilizer, everyone's saying, well, I'm not going to do business with you anymore. And so the rest of the world's saying, well, where else can we get this stuff? And when they look, Africa is that glowing opportunity. So I think there is just a time at the moment where people are wanting to focus, and where Africa has such an amazing time to blossom. So we've got a lot of youth in Africa, and now is how do we prepare them for this possible boom that is coming? It's one of the youngest populations of youth in the world. You can see over here, 62% in the sub-Saharan is less than 25. Look at this, 1/5 of the world's population are not employed, educated, and trained. So what are we going to do with all these people coming through? They're supposed to be what's going to bring our economy and our future into a stable place. So if we're not looking at them and helping them, then there's a little problem there. And so new businesses needed to rapidly grow and significantly impact the economy. This is the part that we need to really, address. New businesses. And in saying that, we talk about entrepreneurs. They're such an amazing people, and people who have ideas is because once you grow a business, you can put someone in there that can fulfill a management role or a task role. But you need the creator of a business to create jobs, and that's why they're so special. That's why they, really should be assisted and helped. And I think this is what this process is in the CTE program. Okay, so got some exciting stuff here, but what we really need is educate me, but don't educate me in the old way. I need to be prepared for where I'm going and what the market's doing and how I can fit in and what skills I actually need. And I need to be realistic about it, and I get my own emotions right. So emotions, are right. Integrate me. So, as I'm learning, take me into your business areas, take me into, show me, give me ropes so that I can actually share and learn from other businesses, that organizations that have been. It's the first time I'm thinking who's going to buy from me, and no one wants to support me. And so the sales process only starts so late. So if we can be introduced, we can have a network and then support me. I'm here to help the economy. I'm the youth. I want to grow. This is where it's going to happen from. I want to bring new products and services to the market. I want to stimulate new employment, slot those people into all the jobs I would like to create. And this is what we're going to do. There's an acceleration of the economic development, not only locally, but in the region, and eventually that goes to a global thing. So youth require more than just a degree. That's why CTE is here. And here's a good example. It prepares the youth for sustainable transformation through learning and skills development, improving business productivity, right? And enhancing youth employability and entrepreneurship. We want to be ready for what amazing idea we want to bring to the marketplace. Here is my son, actually. He's on the roof. We're installing solar. So he's in this world of complete learning. Where was most of his learning over here? He's a full-time tennis coach, so this was new to him. But his real learning was emotionally, actually, and in his ability to persevere. He battled to get the solar panel up because it was unfamiliar to him. It was completely new territory. If you ask him to play tennis and to serve and to do a topspin and to train, he would do it with his eyes closed. Now he's asked to come to this new environment and put this up. It's so foreign to him. So it's like that when we are startup entrepreneurs as well, is that we don't want to come to the environment completely for the first time. We want to do a little bit of training. We want to understand where our market is and what we're going to do, what tools we're going to use, what skills we're going to require, so we're well prepared for that environment. I talked a little bit about this, but here's our unusual attributes that we don't get in varsity, and you basically get it, I suppose, through the situations life presents to us. And here are some of them that I think that are really, really key, but they don't get it focused on. And I think WANDITI and Dr. Albert were referring and alluded to it, that there's this place, for example, in wellness development, mental health development, right? Emotional EQ, the ability to handle things as a person, not only as I've got a great idea, I want to start a business. So emotions, if you don't have your emotions in check, then sometimes you're going to get disappointed, and if you don't deal with that right and use it to build onto, it's going to affect your business and your courage and the approach to what you want to do. So skill, we need to develop skill. We know that communication is so big, right? Communication to the client, communication to your supplier, communication to the team, communication to investors, people who want to give you grants. Communication is going to be that thing that we need to develop. We need to be able to bring things across and engage and talk about them, have fun, laugh about it, you know, be natural about it, because people are actually just talking to people. And grit is that good old hard down work. I'm going to give it all I've got and going to stay there until I get it right. And that goes on to practice, keep going, and stay in the game, and eventually you'll get there. So if you fail a couple of times, it's okay. It's a great place to learn. And if we get learning right, then, you know, we actually start to discover new skills. And then a serving attitude, I keep on bringing it up, but I think it's so important. Come with a servant heart, and then more comes back to you. And discovery, as we do all these things, we actually discover a lot about ourselves. And once you discover who you are and what you're positioned for, you're then very, you have more clarity about what you can bring realistically, you know, and who you are and whether you are able to do that. So that's also key to some of the things that are not always mentioned on a course. So here's the thing, I think you've heard a little bit. This is what's stopping us, right? We've got a whole lot of people, great ideas, but this is what's stopping them. When we develop skills, they're not relevant. So there's a mismatch. I've got these great skills, I'm honing them and developing, but the market didn't need them, or the market's not ready for them. Universities, right? They maybe not preparing exactly what we need. People have expectations that there's going to be a job after a degree. Well, now we can put that to bed and say there won't be. We've got to create those jobs, and then we need to collaborate with the private sector. They need to help us to get there, whether it's through, you know, experience internship, you know, or just funding, or just networking. We need that collaboration. So currently there's no practical experience engagement, and so we don't learn anything real. We just learn textbook stuff, and we need that experience. So I love this one at the bottom here. If we could take this away and just say, this is it. Critical success factor is to integrate unemployed young people into the labor market quickly, sustainably, through the development of professional and personal skills. Okay, that comes from Nelisa's actual website. Okay, here's our company. We had a wireless internet company. You saw me standing on the top of the mountain there, looking over the sea. We had to develop this under incredible time pressure. And so there was no other way but to actually walk the equipment up. 16 batteries, we all carried quite heavy fuel generators, and then this is the actual dish that needed to be mounted. We had a team. We had to really pull the team together. We had to put in the grit and the hard work, and so everyone was on a learning process here. This is us just celebrating afterwards. 2 days of really, really tough work, and then we were open to business, and we were able to serve an area that had no internet connection, and we started off, but you know, the point made over here is that it took teamwork and hard work. So my question, and what we always got to ask ourselves is, and I've got business stuff, but are we relevant, right? And it might look a little bit convoluted over here, but it's very simple, right? We've got mastery, and we're really going to become good at something, and then we've got, like, are we relevant? Like, does it really matter? And so we've got your building block here is always education. Let's have some knowledge about something. And then we've got some theoretical skills. Well, now I understand how to do something. But then we've got to translate that into practical skills. So I can now do it. I can now, for example, work with a solar router. But when I've worked with a solar controller, for example, it controls the solar panel, when I needed to put it into the actual area, I found out that I had to link it up with a longer cable. I had to do an extension. We had to put the solar panel in a different place. It became a lot more trickier. So we got to take our practical skills and we got to apply it into that real life environment and gain some experience. And now we're on our road to somewhere, because now we're taking that education and it's starting to bring value. And then I find, like, is that market ready for me? Is it willing for me to have it there? It's going to pay for what I want to do. And so it links back into, do I have the right need and opportunity? Am I meeting it? Have I built what I needed to build to bring something that is of value? So mastery versus relevance, and it's about knowing a lot of things versus, am I bringing the right things to the right need? These are the questions we've got to ask ourselves. How employable are we? How relevant are we with the energy and the effort that we're putting in? Can I apply my skill? And does the industry actually need it? And am I well positioned to bring that into the environment? This is a learning curve relevance thing. Unfortunately, there's no actual curves here. But what it's trying to show is that if you start off here at a younger age group, say grade 10, and you were given some practical input and skills like a CTE program. In other words, I learned something, but I also got experience on something. And I progressed on a path that I learned something more and I experienced something more, and I was an intern somewhere else. And I developed myself in that type of cycle. Then this path over here would actually be quite, you can see it's actually, the road is quite not so slanted. It's not a steep learning curve, it's actually quite a shallow slope. And so as you go, for example, further on, if I was at grade 12 or I got a certificate and I got a diploma, but there was no experience, or I got a degree and there's no experience. And if we went to advanced degree and I got to mastery, let's say, for example, I was a doctorate in physics and chemical engineering, and I'd learned it and I'd been at university for 15 years. And the next day they said to me, right, we're putting you at a nuclear power plant. Please, can you manage it? This learning curve for me is dramatic, and it is quite stressful. So the approach to get back earlier and build and understand and build and understand is the path that CTE takes us on. And that is what I think the program with Nelisa, there is a place to develop, giving opportunity to start up businesses who have an idea and to develop them. I think this is the route to go as we approach that opportunity. So can you see further? This is what happens at the moment. We just look at this opportunity. I see something, how can I bring value? But what we need to do is just have a little further look. What's happening in the globe, in the world? How many wars are there? What's happened to the marketplace? All these things are critical. One thing that we should look at is the UN 2030 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This is what the whole world's looking at, like improving the climate, access to clean water, access to energy. All these type of things are going to be important to the world, and therefore important to investors and impact investors. Therefore, when you do start your opportunity, if it can be aligned to something that's happening around these areas, it will be great, because you might find that your local economy, like, for example, solar energy and energy investments, are going to be looking at it because they want to link to the global world. And then in your industry, what's actually happening in the energy industry, for example, in your country? And then where's the opportunity? Can I be a player? Can I import? Can I install the solar? So now you know that not only are you fulfilling a role there, you need that house needs energy, but you also know that the globe is looking for more and more renewable energy into the rest of the world, and into Africa. So that link up, just to have a view of it. You don't have to be an expert globally, but to have the ability to have a glance at it, understand what the news is saying, understand what your country is saying, and where are you on it. So how can I bring value? What's the industry doing? Has my country has a need that is aligned with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, and how are we doing on that globally? One of the things that we've been doing in terms of helping entrepreneurs is that we run a boot camp, a Sales Brilliant boot camp, and we just help you to connect in with what's actually happening. So that's been important, and I think that's where I just want to. You can have a look at that afterwards. The conclusion is that we need meaningful equipping, and we need minds that foster inquiring minds. Education's got to be practical. You've got to connect with business. Expectation, you need alignment, and your emotional character development is important. We should be equipping and quantifying certification. So there's a couple of things. What I want to leave with you is this thing. Would you prefer this person had just academics only, or would you hope that he had also had some experience? I'd like to thank you for this opportunity, and for Nelisa for making that possible.
Thank you very much. So I've been just asking myself the same question. Is that experience or
Exactly. And with the snake, you know, it's great if you had learned how to deal with a massive cobra. But I would prefer someone who's done you know, dealing with a whole lot of snakes, smaller snakes and tiny snakes and baby snakes before he got to the big cobra. I would hate that to be his first opportunity. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Okay, okay. So if it is fast, then I guess he'll not have room to try again because he's done.
Very true,
Okay.
Modest. Very true.
Yeah, thank you so much for the nice presentation. Yeah, so we have had a very lovely walkthrough on not only the theoretic, but also the practical aspect. Yeah, so we are going now to move briefly into the question and answer session. Yeah, as we move to that, personally to say, most of us, what we focus more on is getting funds for our business. Like if you just pose any youth and ask them, are you ready to start your own business? They'll say yes. And then if you pose the next question, what is the main challenge you're facing? What they'll go ahead and tell you is, I don't have the funds. So we go ahead and skip all this other stuff and start to all the large cobra by the head. And generally to speak, it's hard for anyone to start a business with that angle. So I quite well understand that the technical aspect on education gives you the right skill set that empowers you to be able to really learn a business. Personally, I could also give a personal experience. The first business I ever started was on delivery services. It's more like Uber, but it's a delivery stuff where you have an application. You can request for people to come and collect an item from your house and deliver it elsewhere. So to speak, we did our market research and we established that we just had one competitor in Kenya. So we are confident that if we go ahead and start the business, we already have the market, because there were a number of things that the competitors was actually not meeting. So we wanted to add value on some of their weaknesses, but so to speak, we said we need money for that, even without proper preparation on the same. So we got an investor who gave us almost 1 million Kenyan shillings, but the money didn't even help us because that was even more than enough for us to kickstart. But because of lack of enough preparation and lack of the skill set needed to actually pursue this business, it didn't get to run. But from it, I learned a number of things. Sometimes it's not all about money. You need more of a stronger basis, which even you cannot be able to attain without even having maybe experience. That poses me a question as I welcome, I'll post this to Peterson because he was the one who had just addressed the practical aspect. Okay, yeah, I'm coming back to the Nelisa question. So I want to ask, so does it, there's a friend who one asked me, is education really important? Because if you look at the most prominent business person, they even never went to school. So what role does the education actually has to play if you already develop these skills? Because these are skills you can also develop maybe by experience. So is education really, really necessary? And if it is, to which extent does it help one to become an entrepreneur? As you answer that, also I would like you to address one of the questions that was raised by one of our members, one of the listeners. So,
yes.
sorry, it was answered actually. So answer mine first before we welcome someone else to address something else. I've just seen it's been answered. Okay. Okay,
Vanis, thanks very much. I think on education, so if you think about education, education is really about learning, right? It's a learning process. One of the things that I found that if you want to, you can go out there and get practical skills, and that's massive learning. But there comes a time when your business needs to grow further, or you want to expand it further. And that's where you need some what I would say, courses or further education to be able to do bigger things. So, for example, if I wanted, I give you a good example, the team that came to my place to do internet installation, the guy just had to put up a pole on a roof. That's what he started with. And then he had to do the wiring. And then he started to do the computer configuration. And then at that stage, he was at his limit. Without further education, he couldn't go and become like the engineer or to configure bigger things. And the same thing, for example, he also needed to develop himself if he wanted to become the head of a team, because he needed a little bit of management skills. And if you wanted to be, for example, head of the team and become manager, like a regional manager, he'd need to know what the budget is and how to report that budget back. So we have to take the practical learning, but education is going to help us to grow further and draw from what the greater learning in the globe.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yeah. So maybe just to respond first to another question that was raised, this goes to Madam ONG'UTI. So the question is, why did we pick the name Awakening? So what instilled us, or what inspired us to adopt Awakening in our in the name of the organization?
So and Jean-Claude, that's not a silly question, because of course, no question is ever a funny question anyway. So what I would like to say is the reason we chose Awakening, when you think about what an awakening is, it's like an aha moment or a revival. So if you've had this education and suddenly you realize, oh no, this cannot help me, I still need some boost into the next level of my life, into the next career path or whatever I'm gonna do. It's good to it's almost, you get to a crossroad and you have a realization, oh my God, I need financing. I need further education. I need a better skill set. So you might be a lawyer and suddenly you say, you know what, it wouldn't be such a bad idea to have my own clinical practice. And when you do the clinical practice, you realize, oh, I don't have that skill set. That realization, that revival, that rejuvenating feeling that you get is why we chose that awakening. You know, we're waking from one slumber and you're coming into a new thing. So that's why we chose Awakening.
Thank you so much. Actually, that also reminds me of something. There is this notion from mostly this elderly population. They think that the essential reason why they took us to school is for us to secure employment. So if you're out of school and tell your mom that I want to start a cyber cafe, it's such a disappointment to them, essentially because they think education was just a stepping stone towards employment. But now when we come at a crossroad where the kind of employment that we have are actually not meeting the need of the people that are graduating out of schools, it's demotivating because you stay out almost 10 years. So to wake us up out of this slumber world where we think the only reason we went to school is to secure employment, we thought of Nelisa. Why don't we work to empower rather than wait for someone to come and engage us or employ us? So by waking up the youths, by encouraging them, by training them to know that they can be actually the source of this employment that isn't even enough to cover even half of the people that are graduating out of universities, it was important for us to awake them. And how do we awake them? Through all these programs that Nelisa has outlined, through education. And imagine some of the other youths spend almost 10 years out and they don't even get a job. So what happens? They become frustrated. Some of them end up committing suicide. So we also incorporated the aspect of mental aspect. So there is a lot out there people haven't learned. If they get this information from Nelisa, they can be in the position of making much more better decisions. So it's like we are trying to awake them from their slumber. Yeah, I think that is what I could add up to what our able presenter has said. Okay, so one other question was in terms of financing. So these two, I guess I'll pass it on to Madam Wanditi because our presentation was more on what we do as Nelisa. So the question was, I could like to ask how I can get synced into webinar, NAA, and also learn financial lessons. Also, I guess they want to know how to best get to be trained on financial skills and how they can synchronize into some of our webinar and trainings.
Okay, thank you. As far as the webinars go, we've put the webinars mainly on our website. If you have specific questions, just send us an email on the email link that's on our website, or you can find us on Facebook. So that's going to be where you can get the information on the webinars. In terms of the financial lessons, we're coming up with more training on finance, and there's a lot more lessons that you will learn, even in the startup maths and everything that will then prepare you for all those financial issues that will come up. So you should be able to get a training as soon as we formally put it on our website.
Sure, thank you so much for that. Yeah, so most of these things you can follow up from our website and our social media platforms. So maybe another question that goes to Dr. Albert is, can you outline at least 1 or 2 or 3 skill sets that we acquire from technical educations that are crucial in our entrepreneurship endeavors? And maybe give a practical applications on where they're applicable when you want to start your own business.
Okay, cool. That's a good question. Before I answer it, I will share this experience though, and it is related to your question. My younger brother was advancing his studies in South Africa. He calls me back and says, Albert, do you know that the kind of education we get in Kenya, or we got in Kenya, is actually making us sleep more than to be awake? We are taught just to get a job, but at the end of the day, we will not get a job. And this, I asked him, how is it down there in South Africa? He said that the class is extended to the industry, or rather, the industry comes to the class. And if I may borrow from Moray's presentation, if you were keen, you would have noticed that 1/5 of the world's population is NEET. They are not employed, they are not educated or trained. So your question is relevant. We must be able to have skills, not only the knowledge, but also practical application, also technical application, hands-on experience. For example, we have, and VANIS, you're in software development, and so is my brother. It is important, like you were pointing out, the delivery services there in Kenya, you only had one competitor. how come there was only one competitor? It was because most probably that establishment had the technical skills to be able to do that, besides the funding and all that. But if you do not know coding, nowadays coding is a third or fourth language for the young generations, for the Gen Zs and millennials. We must be able to know at least how to code, or at least to configure apps that can be able to solve problems for communities. So we need to know these technical skills, and they will tap to our creativity. Where is our passion? That's where it comes from. And then you look for an ecosystem where you can fit in yourself, look at the requirements. So like right now, technology, we are in the 4th generation. We are moving into 5G environment. And so it is important for everybody to be able to understand how information technology moves around. So it is important that we learn these technical skills. As Mure pointed out, also the practical application makes more sense. How would you use it out there in the field? How would you use it? Maybe it is a website or an app in e-commerce. So depending on the niche that you need, you want, you will get to know, find out what are the required technical skills that you need there, and be able to use them. I hope that will help us going forward.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yeah, so with that regard, is it possible for someone to run a business successfully without these skills? Back to you again.
Is it possible?
Is it possible for one to start and run a successful business without these skills?
Not necessarily. In my presentation, we talked about team spirit, and Murray also highlighted team spirit. The energy or synergy between the players, the partners, is important. So if I do not have the skills for one reason or the other, then it is important to find out who is interested, who has the capacity, and therefore bring them on board, share the vision, and go forward. So where these skills are needed, we must be able to employ them. We must be able to supply them so that it will be able to solve the problems of our societies. So not particularly an individual, but if you can't, you can find out and ask around, network, and be able to get somebody who will be able to help you.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so another question that relates to Nelisa. So there's a question on how are we going to get, how someone can be able to interact with our trainings. So he says, I want to thank for this, and I believe that it's an impact. Question is how training will be done. So the question he has is how training is done. Is it online or not? So yeah, so some of the trainings will be online. They can be even in forms of webinars, or some others will be maybe physical, organized by the country directors. So for you to be up to speed on how some of these trainings are actually going to take place, be up to date on our social platforms, keep track of every post, because some of the upcoming events, upcoming training and registrations, you can be able to see them on our websites and social platforms. So I guess that answers your question.
Vanis?
Yes.
To that question, the one asking is a friend. It's a personal friend and a student of mine. I just want to let them know that as the country director in Melissa for Rwanda, we'll be bringing these programs and exercises to their doorstep. And so the trainings will be planned out so that customized as how helpful they can be so that they'll be able to get the best output out of it.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then maybe one other question, this goes to Peterson. Based on your practical experience and interactions with entrepreneurships and businesses, what do you think is the largest or the greatest problem why they actually fail if they don't succeed with regards to education, especially the technical education?
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Vanis. I think the biggest problem is usually expectation. So we have an idea, and you have a great idea. It actually looks like it's going to work. You've spoken to people around you, and then what happens is you're not quite ready to put that idea into a real life environment where people are able to transact or clients are able to buy. And maybe there it is. Maybe you have a solution and people buy, like for example, you start up a little water supply service where you have a JoJo and it fills up water and then you sell it into community, to a rural area, as an example, silly example. But what the big thing is that a lot of the times people are not thinking further to say, okay, we started here and I've sold 1 and I've sold 5. But if I really want to sell 50, I'm going to have to think about how to change a couple of things. I might need to bring on some team members. I might need to I might need to hand over my skill and train someone else up. So I think a lot of the time is that entrepreneurs get stuck in the one-man band. They start it up, they got a clever idea, they get the business rolling, it starts to happen, but they never bring anyone else on to expand. And so they stay at a certain level. I think that that's my take on probably one of the problems that we've seen. Obviously there are many, Vanis, but I think that I see just at different levels is that people stay at a certain level because there isn't a way, one understanding to expand and to create a bigger than a one-person business.
So I guess then that means by getting to interact in some of this technical education, they get more practical approach, and they get to establish maybe a more diverse aspect of looking into the problem. Because sometimes I guess just pop into our head, but without having an awesome understanding of the problem, especially by having our hands on the actual event, then we get to approximate or overestimate some of the results that we hope to. So there's one of the questions that is also been posed on why Nelisa. I guess there's a story behind it. We'll be able to give that soon in our social media. So keep tuned. You will get a full story of where the Nelisa came up from. But before that as well, we also have another question that maybe I'd like to pose, that someone has posed. So she introduces himself and asks, I would like to ask whether this training will be made young investor entrepreneurship to have either funds or advocacy through the knowledge they get from that. So I guess this I'll pass it on to Madam Wanditi. Do you think that the trainings, that those who are undergoing such trainings will be made young investors or entrepreneurship? And then will they be able to have maybe access to funds? That is the question I'm trying to get out of whatever they want to know. So what benefit do the people that attend this training have?
Yes, well, we can't. promise you that for real you will get the financial grant. But what we do know is that we're definitely training you towards getting qualified to get any kind of financial assistance you can get. If you qualify, obviously, if you qualify for the NELISA Awakening Startup Acceleration Program, the startup funds, any of the training that we give, you, if you have a good, viable business case, then you can be assured that you will get funding at the end of your training, or as we see how your business comes along. So does it translate to funding? Not in all the cases, but some of them do translate to funding.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah. So I guess she has made the clarification on that. So the advantage of getting to attend some of this meeting, especially just even if you could get that from the experience that I have had as an entrepreneur, sometimes it's not all about funding, but the opportunities as well it opens out. If you really start a business and fail on it, there are a number of lessons that you learn. But by getting to interact with some of these good people that have tried, who have partnered with NELISA to ensure that we support the youth to in their ventures, you learn a number of lessons that you cannot find elsewhere. But as well, it also opens you up an opportunity to do networking and get people that can actually meet you and help you to realize what you can best do to be able to attain your dream. But in addition to that, yes, there are people that actually qualify for the NAA funding. So there is a criteria. So once you've gone through the training, at least through this training, you also get the skills needed to be able to know if you can actually qualify. So it's like we will be giving you insights and other maybe educational and skill-wise experience that are crucial in getting to qualify for some of these funds. Yeah, so I guess that generally covers it. So I like each of our speakers to give a one statement or a comment on any of the questions that they feel was not properly answered. So I'll start with Dr. Albert, then I'll move to PETERSON, then I'll finalize with WANDITI. But as well as they do that, if you have a burning question, because you're almost running out of time, you can post it. If we can answer it now, well and good. If not, you'll receive a response back from us. So we start with you, Dr. Albert, just a winding up remarks.
Yes, it is important for us to really put our minds together and appreciate that NELISA is with us. Africa has been for a long time been asleep, and WANDITI pointed that out. Morea has said that many of our young people are not educated, not employed, and not trained. And so it is important that we must be able to embrace CTE. It will be able to equip us so that we have those relevant skills such that whether we go for jobs or employment, we get into our own entrepreneurial activities, we are relevant and be able to solve problems for ourselves in our own context and environment and change lives. So especially to the people in Rwanda, we hope to do a lot. There's excitement that is on the horizon, and I pray that the whole umbrella team of NELISA will be on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Albert. My thing is, the time is now for Africa, and NELISA is offering this opportunity. You know, if I had in my space someone who said, if you've got a great idea, I'm going to help you along. I'm gonna help with that process. Present your opportunity, and we'll help you through it. Look for funding, support you in it, mentor you through it, and grow your business with you. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's something that I would jump at. So I think it's just a wonderful opportunity, and I encourage you to go. I mean, I would like to be on the other side of this, to be helping some of those businesses. So I'm excited to look forward to some innovation and creativity to work with you, and I'd have the privilege of doing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Wanditi.
Great. Thank you so much for listening to us, for attending our webinar. We are honored to have you with us. I am grateful to be part of Nelisa Awakening. I echo Murray's and Albert's remarks about the time is now. So I would say to you, if you're a youth and you've got the opportunity to jump into Nelisa Awakening Africa, please do, because we are here, we're available, and we want to help you. And we know that this is the time for Africa. So carpe diem.
Okay, thank you so much. It's been a privilege to have some of them speak to us this afternoon. Yeah, so anyone that managed to join in late, welcome. Our topic for today's webinar was the role that career and technical education plays in entrepreneurship. And we have had a very good insight from them. If you didn't have a chance to catch up from the start, please do so by going to listen to some of the recording. They'll be shared on our social platforms. And then with that regards, I'd like to wind up with the question that was just raised. So with all the practical experience on entrepreneurship, could I take a step forward on starting a business? What are the specific qualifications required by Nelisa to give out funds? So our qualification criteria is actually briefly outlined on our website. If you go to the Nelisa Startup Fund page, you can be able to see who qualifies. And then, so once we have an open application, please be ready and do the application through the website. But as well, different countries will be organizing different entrepreneurship related training. So once you keep monitoring on our social platform, you will be able to know like when each country is doing the registration. So be among those who are going to register. Then through that, you can gain all the other required skill set required for you to be a good entrepreneur. So I guess briefly I've handled that, but some of these things are actually on our website. And then if you see that there's anything not addressed there, please reach out through the chat or wherever so that you can be able to get feedback from us. Okay, so I'm very grateful for all of you that managed to attend. It's been a blessing for us to have you, because there is no great pressure like being a mentor or a guide towards someone that is passionate to get it or to make it in life. So thank you so much for your time and for the patience. And if you have any question, please reach out to us. So you will have also a recorded version of this on our website. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, MAINA. Thank you, Peterson. Good job to you, VANIS, for having us. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for the presentation as well. And all the participants, thank you. Next time, don't forget to join in. We have even more prepared for you.